Hello my friends, Hank here, and welcome back to another episode of Sprues and Brews Scale Modeling. Today's lesson is going to be a rather special one. We're going to be painting up a member of the legendary British Special Air Service during the North African campaign of World War II. If you guys don't know much about these fellas, it is worth doing some reading, because these guys caused an absolute ruckus behind enemy lines in Egypt, Libya, and Tunisia from the unit's founding back in 1941 through to the end of the war in the desert in 1943. At peak effectiveness in North Africa, the SAS is believed to have successfully destroyed more than 250 German and Italian aircraft on the ground, as well as eliminating countless Axis supply dumps and communication lines and personnel all along the way. Whether through stealthy sabotage or bold, blazing hit-and-run attacks in their modified Willys Jeeps, the SAS were certainly some of the most unorthodox yet highly effective commando units of the Second World War. More recently, the lads of the SAS have received some well-deserved recognition as the stars of the BBC MGM show SAS Rogue Heroes. Very much worth a watch, in my opinion, if you haven't given it a go. So, without further ado, let's paint up our own 1/35th scale Rogue Hero. Alright, for today's demonstration, we'll be painting up this lovely resin figure from the folks at the Body Miniatures. They advertised this figure as a member of the Long Range Desert Group, which was an incredible unit in its own right. The LRDG boys worked in tandem with the SAS on many occasions and usually kitted themselves out in similar desert attire, so this particular figure choice works well for either subject. To start things out, as always, we'll be spraying our figure with a coat of black primer to give us a nice base to work up from. We're going to do one more bit of airbrushing before we move on to our paintbrush work today. Let's spray the torso of our figure with some of this Rot Brawn here. Our figure is wearing a non-regulation shearling leather jacket, which was not at all uncommon with SAS troops in North Africa. The SAS boys were usually carrying out their raids at night, and in some parts of the desert, the temperature can shift sometimes up to 40 degrees Fahrenheit after the sun goes down. So shorts and a big heavy jacket, not that strange, oddly enough. With our jacket all sprayed up, let's get to work on our flesh tones. We're sticking with our tried and true Faces Made Easy technique today, starting with a nice thin coat of flat flesh all over our exposed skin of the face, the hands, and the lower legs. If you haven't had a chance to check out my basic Faces Made Easy beginner overview, I'd highly recommend giving this a pause and heading over to check that one out first. We'll be here when you get back. Okay, with some flat flesh applied to our skin, let's now very carefully draw in two little dots in our eye sockets using the eye color of your choice to create a simple eye line for our figure. For the second phase of our skin work, let's apply a thin glaze coat of our light rust wash to help accentuate the details of our sculpt and add some warmth to our skin. Also pretty unusual for a World War II combat figure, this trooper is also sporting a lovely full beard. The men of the SAS and the LRDG were operating far behind enemy lines, relatively autonomously, and well away from the structure of British High Command, so beards did tend to pop up and have become a bit of a symbol with the SAS troops working in North Africa. We'll pencil in his beard and his eyebrows with some medium brown. And to wrap up our skin work, we can now come back with a final thin pass of our original flat flesh tone to help pull out some of the raised portions of the face, like our nose, our brow, our cheekbones, etc. Okay, with our skin work all wrapped up, let's start to tackle our unusual uniform. Up first, our figure is adorned with a traditional Arab headscarf known as a keffiyeh, a hatta, or a shamag, among other names, depending on the regional variant. While this piece of clothing holds deep cultural significance among many Middle Eastern groups, it also serves the very practical purpose of protecting the wearer from the sun, sand, dust, and other environmental hazards. In the few surviving reference images we have of SAS troops working in North Africa, it's clear to see that these British troops also recognized the clear benefit of the handy article and adopted it as part of their daily kit. We'll paint up this particular item in a simple khaki. The shemagh is often paired with what's called an agal, which is essentially a cord of woven camel or goat hair that is used to secure the shemagh in place on the head. We'll paint up this particular agal with some flat black. Alright, with our head looking pretty good, let's move back down to our torso and tackle some of the details of our jacket. We can pull out the shearling details of our coat with a bit of creme vice. This will look pretty stark at first, but once we come back with our weathering effects at the end, the sharp contrast here will start to even out a bit and get us exactly where we want to be. Our trooper is wearing some web gear and ammo pouches, so let's paint that all up with some good old olive drab. Below the web gear, our figure is also wearing a nice thick leather belt, so let's hit that with some red leather. This is only a slight deviation from the reddish tone of our leather jacket itself, which is good. Moving further down the body here to our figure's shorts, let's hit those with some of that same khaki we used up on our head covering. At this point, we can also carefully paint in this second scarf that our figure has slung around his neck using a slightly lighter green-gray tone. Back down to our legs, let's brush in these rolled up socks with some of our olive drab. And a nice little time saver here, our boots are already black from our primer coat, so no need to hit those a second time unless we've done any overpainting by accident. Flipping over to the back side of our figure, he's got a canteen slung on his hip there. Let's paint the body of the canteen up with a bit of that same medium brown we used up with our beard. And with the body of the canteen painted up, we can come back and pencil in the straps with some of our khaki. If you do accidentally overpaint like I did here, just wait until the paint dries and come back and fix any mistakes later. That goes for the rest of the figure as well. While we have our khaki loaded up, we can also hit the bits of uniform sleeve that we can see here peeking out from under his jacket. For a really fun little touch here, the sculptor has given our figure a liberated Luger holster on his left hip, so let's go ahead and paint that up with some of our flat black. And the last major painting portion we need to tackle here is to clean up this gorgeous M1928 Thompson with the 50-round drum mag in all its glory. We'll use flat black for our metal components and some beige brown for our grips and stock. And for a final painting touch, let's pencil in all of his buckles and snaps with some of that same flat black. Oh, and of course, how could I forget, our fella's got a trusty Mark II helmet hooked on his belt here. Let's hit that with some desert yellow. Okay, now with our painting work complete, it's officially weathering time. You guys know the drill if you've been watching the channel for a while now. Let's get a coat of gloss varnish on here to protect our work and prep for enamels. Once our clear coat is dry, let's finish our work today with a simple 2-part pin wash. We'll apply some enamel dark wash in select spots on the figure and use some of our odorless thinner to help this flow into all the recesses of our figure, popping our details and adding some artificial shadow effects along the way. we can continue to move around the figure and work with the product until we're happy with the end result, and then all that's left to do is let the wash dry, apply our matte varnish coat to seal in our work, and we are ready to hit the dunes. And with that, we've got ourselves a very interesting figure to add to our collection. Now, it would only be fair for this SAS Raider to get his own MG-laden Jeep, so I think we ought to get cracking on one of those next, huh? Thank you for watching, my friends. I hope you all enjoyed. If you haven't done so already, the biggest thing you can do to help the channel out here is to hit that subscribe button down below. You can check out a full list of all the products we use today down in the description below as well. And until next time, my friends, be well, happy building. Cheers.